and welcome to Liberation Hour Radio, radio show coming to you every Friday at 8 o'clock p.m. We're here at 102.7 Sound FM in Kitchener-Waterloo. You can also find our show at radiowaterloo.ca/listen. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. And I'm your host this week. My name is Andrew Aaron, and today I will be talking with Dr. Eugen Sofronov, and later we will also be hearing from a couple of his patients as well, so we're looking forward to that. So Eugene Sofronov is a foreign-trained doctor with an IT background. He got bored of computers and is currently a clinical manager and clinical assistant in Waterloo. He and his colleagues see various patients and problems in their walk-in clinic and family practice. He believes that most of the health conditions are a result of diet and can be treated and even reversed with diet. He has a long history with vegetarianism and veganism, starting from being an avid opponent of the idea to researching and discovering irrefutable evidence in favor of it. He went vegan when he discovered there was no valid talking points against veganism, where and when we live now, and it's becoming more evident every single day and every single economical and health catastrophe. He has a certificate in plant-based nutrition from Dr. Campbell's course at Cornell University. And every September, he follows the plant-based natural health conferences in the USA and other pioneers in the movement. He's had a handful of patients who took his advice, some partially, some completely, and some are now fully vegan, and some we'll hear from today as well. So thank you so much for being with us today, Eugene.
Oh, Andrew, it's my pleasure for being invited here. Thank you so much.
So we'll start off with some questions for you. What is the biggest change you noticed in your health when you went vegan?
The most notable thing and some of the probably scariest moments in my life, it's when I was in my third year in med school. And I started hearing my own heartbeat in my head when I went to sleep. When I started research, I sort of had a hunch to what it might be, and I started researching it, and then I realized it could have been my high blood pressure. So sure enough, I went and I measured my blood pressure, and it was abnormally high for my age. So I started looking more into health, and one of the biggest changes was a few weeks after going cold turkey, full vegan, plant-based, I noticed that sound becoming less louder and less louder until it disappeared. And then I checked my blood pressure, and I was convinced that it was due to the blood pressure, because just a couple of weeks after being on a plant-based diet, it dropped to almost normal levels.
Right. Okay. And did you have an inclination that before going vegan that your blood pressure was high, that was probably a result of your diet?
Oh yeah, I had it verified. I even actually at around the same time, we were doing clinical rotations, and we went to this module where they were doing a demo on the ultrasound machine, the carotid Doppler exam. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I volunteered. I think she picked me just by random. She was like, just come over here. We'll do it on you because you're a big guy. I guess, we can sure. Get to you easier. And then she looked at my carotids on both sides, and she's like, you know what? You are at the very limit of what's considered top normal. And I was in my early 30s, and I was like, wow, like really? Like I'm 30 and you're right. telling me that I'm like borderline atherosclerosis patient? So yeah. And okay. that was the turning point, my health being ruined, right? And that's what got me into researching. But actually, prior to that, my sister went vegetarian. Okay. And then for about 5 years, me and her went back and forth, me arguing against plant-based diets and her arguing for it. So the more research I did, the more I was getting convinced that it is the diet.
Right. Yeah. Right. Okay. And you've talked to a lot of people, I imagine, then about this since, especially working in a walk-in clinic.
Yes.
And what is the biggest misconception that people have about plant-based diet?
Oh, there's lots of misconceptions, but some of the top ones is that it's not nutritionally sufficient. A lot of people are convinced that we need animal products for proper health, which is completely opposite. A lot of them think it's not appropriate for young children or older adults because, again, they have this concept that we need animal protein, and that's for some reason kids and elderly need more animal proteins. There's tons of plant-based protein that's a lot healthier to begin with and a lot healthier for long term.
Right. Okay. Can you describe the biggest transformation you noticed in a patient? So you talked about yourself personally and how that affected you so quickly. Can you describe, obviously without any personal information, what the biggest transformation you saw in a patient after they switched to a plant-based diet?
I wish I kept the logbook of all the things that have happened, but just because it's such a high-paced clinic, I don't have time to sit down after talking to patients. It's just basically memories. But the most people, when they come back to me, the most ones that I notice is chronic pains and aches.
Okay.
A lot of middle-aged people, they have these symptoms, a little pain here, a little, poke there, and they think that this is normal part of aging, indigestion, constipation, high blood pressure, but it's mainly the aches. Like people, once they try a plant-based diet for a few weeks, even let's say 2 weeks, like try a plant-based diet, you've got nothing to lose, see how your body feels. And a lot of people do come back around 2-3 weeks and they're like, wow, you know what? It did make a difference. You are right. Not everybody takes my advice. Some of them laugh at it. Some of them tell me, to my face that it's never going to happen. But the few that do, they come back, and they're here at the show tonight. Yeah.
Okay. Do you find it frustrating when you tell people and they'll refuse to listen to you or they'll argue against it?
No, because, and I tell this to everybody, I was a strong vegan opponent for 5 years, like straight up 5 years, fighting against veganism, coming up with all kinds of excuses, and, I don't know, making fun of my sister. But
I think a lot of us were in that same position.
Yeah.
So looking back now, can you identify the real reason you were arguing against it? Like, was it just habit? Was it?
No, it wasn't even me speaking. It was, my preconceived information that was instilled just like everybody else, right? It's the culture, it's your ethnic background, it's your education level, it's a bunch of things compounded together. And you obviously know, and you'll notice that the more educated a person is, the higher the chance that he's going to be either vegan or vegetarian.
Okay. Right? And what are some of the conditions you see most that you would consider to be primarily results? Like you mentioned, aches and pains, just in general. More serious conditions that you see.
We could sit here for hours and talk about it, but I don't know. Let me try and give you like a quick recap. So even starting prior to birth, moms come with morning sickness.
Okay.
Right? Nobody ever talks about it, but if you look at studies, the most important thing that predicts morning sickness in a mom is an animal-based diet. The more amount of animal products you have in your diet as a pregnant mother, the higher your risk for having morning sickness. And it's all like, this is science-based. And it all traces to the fact that your body, once it's pregnant, will try to save your own body and the baby's body by somehow sensing the toxins from the bacteria and the viruses and all these molecules that the immune system knows are bad for you. And it will make you throw them up to try in an attempt to try and save the baby.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean?
That makes a lot of sense. It's
right?
Not something I heard before either, but yeah.
And then children come in. They're small children. They come in and they're like, the parents usually tell me, look, he can't poo, he's on laxatives, he's been on these laxatives for like, half a year or a year, we're trying it, and then they're soiling their pants. And again, nobody asks, but if you look at the evidence, if you look at the science, constipation in small kids, in 80% of the cases, you remove dairy, you get rid of the constipation. Number one allergen for kids is dairy. Right. The young human gut is not compatible with the dairy protein. Yeah. And there's a lot of people, so there's more newer pediatricians that recommend against it. Because finally the science is trickling down, even if it's not directly in the medical books. At least some of the newer pediatricians that like to stay on top of science, they're taking some of these lessons from these studies that are showing that there's a direct link. You know what I mean? Yeah. Same thing for ear infections in small kids. Okay. Around the same percentage. Recurrent ear infections in small kids, in around 80% of the cases, you remove dairy from the diet, you get rid of the recurrent ear infections. Okay. And then same thing, if we move on to teens, acne. And a large, more than half the time, acne gets better or disappears. All you have to do is remove dairy from the diet. And all I say is, I wish I could tell everybody, hey, go vegan, go vegan, go vegan. But you have to be professional and say, hey, you try some exclusion diets. You can exclude wheat, not for acne, but in general, like, exclusion diets usually start with wheat, dairy, eggs, fish, and some other things. Give it a month, give it a try. Like, try dairy for a month, see what happens. And then again, in old people, arthritic type pains. Give dairy a break for a month, see what happens with your pain. And usually in 2-3 weeks, people come back and they're like, you know what? The pain has never been as good for like the past 10 years. Like, it's still there, but it's not as intense. And I explain to them, dairy causes inflammation in the body. Arthritis is a disease of inflammation. Putting inflammation on top of inflammation does not help inflammation. It only makes it worse.
So surely there's unhealthy ways to eat a plant-based diet too. Like, you just specifically removing certain things from your diet isn't going to do it, but you need to include healthier alternatives to get all the proteins and stuff you need. And can you talk about some of the potential pitfalls that people might run into switching to a plant-based diet, and some foods you would recommend?
Yeah, obviously processed foods is just as big a risk as some of the animal products, health-wise. But when you consider the fact that it doesn't have cholesterol, it doesn't have viruses and bacteria, and look at the latest news. Look what's happening with the coronavirus. That would not have happened if people did not produce these animal products, if they didn't hunt these animals, if they didn't breed these animals, if they didn't bring them all together at these markets. It's this just asking to I don't have irrefutable evidence, but there is a lot of talk about how this was because of animal husbandry. And it makes sense too, like if you have that many animals in a small confined area as any species. These are the perfect conditions to create these superbugs, antibiotic resistant bacteria, and these mutant viruses. I forget who it was, but they said when they were talking about the emergence of these antibiotic resistant bacteria, and I don't know if you heard all these commercials in the past few years, these companies advertising their chicken and meat products as antibiotic free. They're saying, hey, come try our new antibiotic free chicken. And I was like, why would they remove antibiotics from farms? Like, how are the birds even alive? And if you dig deeper into this, you will find that, I don't know, it was 2015, there was some whistleblower farmer that came out in the States, and he was trying to tell the public that removing these antibiotics did not do anything to improve your health. Yes, you're possibly reducing the bacteria that's getting, resistance to these antibiotics. But what are we doing instead of antibiotics? Is we're putting arsenic in chicken feed. This is a known cancer-causing poison for at least 3,000 years. There's books going back to 3,000 years explaining how kings and queens were being poisoned with arsenic.
Right.
And now we're feeding it to ourselves.
Wow. Wow. It's scary stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of people who have already gone vegan want to spread that message as well, and oftentimes run into problems with their family. Have you had any luck in getting your family to follow the same path as you?
Successfully, my whole family's vegan.
Oh, wow.
My dad was the last one to go.
Okay.
But with persistence and with some of his health issues that happened recently, he switched. And again, like I said, all it took was cold turkey and 2 or 3 weeks for his blood pressure to go to like a normal blood pressure.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on that. That's a lot. That's something that a lot of people want to accomplish, I'm sure. Well, thank you for being with us here today. We're going to come take a short break, and then we're going to come back with a couple of your patients and hear their testimony as well. So we'll be right back.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. We're here with Liberation Hour Radio on 102.7 Sound FM in Kitchener-Waterloo. We're also live on Facebook. So hello and welcome to everyone watching us on Facebook. Thank you for joining us. We're back with Logan Sater. I use pronouns they and them. Logan is a queer trans artist, illustrator, and painter, and an activist in the community. They enjoy the benefit of a plant-based diet on many levels, including being able to keep up with workouts at the gym, high energy levels, clear thinking, calmer moods, and increased empathy towards animals. So thank you so much for joining us, Logan.
Yeah, no problem.
So tell me first about your experience switching to a plant-based diet. What was it that first encouraged you to do that?
So I actually switched to a plant-based diet in the summer of 2019. And at the time, I was going through a lot of inflammation and pain and just IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, and just foggy brained, lots of health issues. And I got to be honest, like I felt like I was going to die.
No way.
I went straight to my doctor and they suggested I go plant-based. And at the time I was like, well, what am I going to eat? Like, I didn't think I'd be able to survive.
Yep.
But I guess like I found out it was okay, and I was pinning a lot of stuff on Pinterest, a lot of recipes, and I just made it work. And
people naturally think of the things they're cutting out of their diet, but not the things that they're going to be adding in when they, when they go plant-based. There's still a lot of foods available, right?
Yeah, and I found like when I dropped the perfectionism around going plant-based, you know, if I slipped up and I went back to eating a little bit of meat here and there, it wasn't a problem. I dropped the perfectionism side of it, and I just said, you know what, it's a process. My body is going through a change, and I'm going to have to be really gentle with it all. So
right. So other than the initial reaction to how difficult it might be, what were some of the difficulties you had making that change?
Well, in the beginning, I was pretty perfectionist with it, and that was one of the biggest problems I had. And again, like once I dropped that part of it, I was like, hey, this is kind of smooth sailing now. I think also at the time, like I don't know for sure, but I think I was also dealing with an ulcer, and I couldn't eat beans for a little while. Like I couldn't eat protein heavy stuff. Anything protein was just a problem. But with the plant-based diet, I was able to find things that were light, and I was able to eat. If it was anything, like I was just like, I need to eat anything really. Like, and I found that plant-based diet really helped with that process. yeah, so I would say that those were the two difficult
Okay.
things that I would.
And how long did it take before you started noticing health improvements? Like, tell us about that journey.
I would say health improvements started, I think I noticed health improvements maybe about a week or two after starting. I just had more energy and I felt lighter, for lack of a better term. I felt like my mood was better. I remember maybe about 2 weeks after I had started, my kid was doing something really annoying in the backseat of the car, and I turned around and felt like I was angry, but it felt like I had to really try to be angry at my kid. And I was like, that's different. Yeah, that's never happened before. So.
Okay. So mood changes as well then.
Yeah, like mental health changes too.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I was always kind of getting angry a lot, and yeah.
Well, if you're not feeling well, like how your body is feeling as well, as it will contribute, of course, to your mental health.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
And I asked Eugene the same question, like, has your family had been open to this, and have they made the same changes in their lives?
I think my dad definitely. I think he's been wanting to try out going vegan for a while, but it is quite the shift, and I think like my family's kind of struggled with a change as far as that goes. Like, I think they were definitely interested, but as far as like switching over to it, it's been kind of a struggle. But no, my family's like, yeah, do what you want, kind of thing. They haven't been, against it or anything like that.
Right. Okay. That's good. It's good. Better than some experiences I've heard about, for sure. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And what are some of your favorite new foods that you've tried since going plant-based?
I think I like to just, I guess, like veganize a lot of the food that I was eating before. When I started, I kind of cried because I was like, there's like nothing I can eat that I was eating before. And then after like kind of experimenting a lot with recipes on Pinterest, I realized, hey, like I could just veganize a bunch of the stuff that I was eating before. Like each thing has a certain texture that I can replace with like a plant, so exactly. Yeah. So I felt like there is a way around this where I can create something that resembles what I was eating before. So
good. Is there anything else you wanted to tell the listeners about your experience?
I guess I wanted to bring up like the energy I have at the gym. Like it's been insane. I go to the gym and I work out and I don't stop. Like, but before, like I'd have inflammation and I just didn't want to stick to it. And I'd like go home early. I'm like, screw this sucks, kind of thing. But no, like I've been working out and I've been able to work out for an hour and my body's just like, what, we're leaving now? Like, let's keep going here. And I'm just like, no, we got to go home. Like my partner's going to be late for work, kind of thing. I can't stay here.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. So, I mean, like I've had tons of energy to work out and it's been great.
Yeah. How often do you go to the gym?
I've been going like every other day. Awesome. And that's just unheard of. Like I've never done that before.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And I'm like running laps in the gym too, just like, and people are like kind of walking on the lap track and I'm just like bolting past them. Yeah. I've never been like that in my life.
Yeah.
So
there's nothing like finishing a workout and still feeling like you have energy at the end of it.
It's kind of annoying, actually. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, no problem.
We're just going to take another short break and we will be back. Hello and welcome back again to Liberation Hour Radio, 102.7 Sound FM in Kitchener-Waterloo. And also on Facebook. Welcome to everyone who's watching on Facebook and thank you for joining us today. We are back now with Fran Boniface. and we're so happy to have you here. So Fran is an 80s baby, lover of family, friends, food, and life. She's an auntie to 5 beautiful children, baker by trade, crochet designer, and instructor by night. She has been vegan since September 2019 and encourages others to eat more plants, more whole foods, and feel better from the inside out. So that's fantastic bio there.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So tell us about your experience going vegan.
So my experience going vegan all started last September. I had some health issues that were really affecting the way I was feeling. Just simply having a sip of water was causing so much pain that I actually believed I was having a heart attack. So I went into the clinic where I saw Eugene, and basically they gave me a prescription to watch a certain number of documentaries on Netflix and to take very seriously my health and to start eating more plant-based whole foods. So I listened to that, and I really took that to heart. And once I started doing it, I started noticing right away the changes that were happening in my body and how quickly they were happening. The inflammation I had that was causing all the suffering in my body was basically eliminated. Within a couple of weeks, I felt so much stronger in my body, especially in my legs. I was able to run up and down my stairs, and I live on the top floor of a 4-story walk-up. So that for me was the ticket. It was like, okay, this is really cool. My body is actually starting to work now because I'm giving it the proper nutrients. So that was probably the turning point for me, was just noticing how fast my body was actually taking in the nutrients that I was consuming.
Great. When you first got that prescription, you say to watch documentaries on Netflix, like, were you skeptical at all?
Not at all. I actually thought it was so cool that I was at a doctor's who was giving me a prescription to change my life instead of a prescription for pills.
Right.
Because I had been to so many different doctors before, and every time it was just take a pill for this, take a pill for this, and it having a temporary effect on me, but long-term, nothing.
Right.
Just having to go back to the doctor for the same issue or for something else that had come up, and having no idea that it was based around what I was eating.
Yeah. And a lot of people feel like when they're having aches and pains and stuff like this is going to be the way it is for the rest of their life, or, you know, as they're getting older, it's going to get worse. Did you ever get to that point, or were you always like thinking something wasn't right?
Well, several years ago, I had actually been diagnosed with a kidney disease and had some very serious complications take place afterward for several years. So anytime that I was feeling any kind of pain, I instantly associated it with having problems with my kidney, and kind of being stuck on that idea that that's what was causing it. But I thought that at some point I could get better, but it didn't feel like it was happening fast enough. So I just kind of decided that, you know what, I'm just going to have pain in my body for my whole life until they take my kidney out. And that sounds extreme, but that was a recommendation that a doctor had given me, and thinking, no, there's got to be a different way to doing this.
Yeah. When it comes to something that extreme, you don't want to go to those lengths if you don't
absolutely, because I was still young, so to speak. And I just knew that it just had to be different. Something had to be different.
And when it comes to like we've talked a little bit about already on the show about finding plant-based foods that you like and that you can cook and things like that, were there any struggles that you had for switching over?
In the very beginning, I was more excited about the changes that were happening, so I didn't really find that to be a struggle. However, a couple weeks into it, I remember having a moment where all I wanted was to just eat a burger. That's
Mhm.
all I wanted. And I thought I was going to get in my car, drive up the street, find a place that was open 24 hours and have that. And I remember in that time thinking, this is crazy. Like, why am I craving this so strongly? And it's like a light bulb just sort of went off. And I had a realization that why I was craving it is because I was very stressed at that moment.
Okay.
And I associated that stress with the food,
Mhm.
and then realized that I was in fact an emotional eater.
Right.
And
Okay.
after that kind of epiphany happened, it's like all of a sudden that just stopped.
Okay.
And afterward, it just became easier and easier. And because I love to actually cook, it became exciting for me, because it was like, okay, I can take this vegetable and put it with this vegetable and add this to it and just make a really phenomenal like meal with it. So now I find it more exciting than anything else.
That's great.
Yeah.
And have your friends and family been they followed your example and gone the same direction, or no?
Unfortunately not.
Okay.
In the very beginning, my mom was very excited about it, and she decided to go along with me. And for the most part, she's been really great with it. Every so often she'll have dairy or meat, and in my opinion, that's completely her choice. But my eldest sister has kind of been inspired by it and has started to change some of her habits. But ideally, I would love for everyone in my family to be able to do this, just because of how beneficial it actually has been for my health. I feel like I can feel air flowing through my body all the time. And before, I always felt in a tremendous heaviness of just even being barely able to walk around my apartment, to now being able to work a 9-hour shift, doing very physical work, coming home and being able to just keep going until I have to go to bed, several hours later, and feeling like, you know what, I could actually just keep going. So that is the biggest testament for me as to how much this was working and is working for me.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I hope other people around you take that advice as well, because
Me too.
At some point they may get to that point, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And what are some of your favorite foods to cook then?
Well, just this past week, I ended up making a jackfruit pizza,
Ooh,
which was very awesome.
sounds fantastic.
So I did it with a homemade barbecue sauce. And then I added mushrooms and vegan cheese and red onions. And I put it on a flatbread, and it was absolutely phenomenal. So just being able to experiment with those things has been really cool for me. It's getting your head out of the idea that the only thing you could eat would be salads.
Right.
And knowing that you can eat really anything, because there is something out there that will fix every craving you have, whether it's for something salty or creamy or sweet, or you can use your food to meet those cravings that you're having. And that's really cool. But definitely takes some research, and it takes some time figuring out what flavor works good with it. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, sounds like it. You'll have to have me over for dinner sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll cater to everybody here.
Yes. Is there anything else you wanted to tell the listeners?
Just that anybody who is right now struggling and maybe thinking that they want to adopt a healthier lifestyle or feel better, just give it a try. Just try it even for 2 weeks. I noticed a difference within 5 days. After 2 weeks, I noticed a total change in how my body felt. The biggest benefit is that you are doing it for yourself, and you will feel the benefit of making that decision, as opposed to just sitting back and thinking, I just wish my body would feel better.
Right.
When you can take action and be able to just go ahead and do it. The other thing I would strongly recommend too is finding people to support you through this. Asking a million questions. Be part of different groups, because the people who are there, they want to help you. I've been absolutely blessed by having met Eugene and him, you know, giving me the idea to do this, he's completely saved my life. So I
It's fantastic.
truly owe him everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of resources online as well. Did you find anything online that you found particularly helpful?
Well, for me, because I do love to cook, my one sister who hasn't at all gone plant-based, she was the one who was sending me dozens of links a day going, you should try this, you should try this, you should try this.
Oh, that's great.
And that for me was very exciting and something I really enjoyed too. So that was probably the biggest thing right now. Otherwise, I'm just part of different pages on Instagram. There's all kinds of resources on there that are just very helpful. So,
okay,
yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we're going to take a short break again. We're going to have Eugene back for a short discussion, and then we'll have some announcements at the end of the show. All right, welcome back again to Liberation Hour Radio. We're here at 102.7 in Kitchener-Waterloo. So we're back with Eugene, and just had a couple more questions. We just had a great interview with a couple of your patients who speak very highly of you, so that must feel fantastic.
I didn't even get to hear it, but I'll check it out after the broadcast.
That's great. That's great. And it must feel good to have, to feel like you've really made a difference in people's lives like that.
Yeah, that's the best part, when you see people coming back with a smile and a sparkle in their eyes.
Yeah.
And that is the best part.
Good. So if you had any advice for our listeners, what would you say that is the best way to get started on a plant-based diet? Do you have any resources?
And I always say to patients too, it's never been easier than today, because every single day there's more plant-based options. Now there's finally plant-based options for companies who have historically been all, animal products, like Maple Leafs, like Tyson in the States, KFC. So now just about anywhere you can go, you can find the healthiest items that you can, and some of the not so healthy items that people are used to. And sometimes that's what it takes, right? Everyone's like, oh, sending me links about the Beyond Burger not being healthy because it's processed, yada, yada.
Sure. People
who go to Burger King and McDonald's and A&W, they don't go there to eat healthy foods.
Right.
They go there for comfort foods. So we have all spectrum covered, right? And same thing with milk. A lot of questions are like, oh, if I'm not going to give my kid milk, where are they going to get their calcium from?
Right.
And I tell, go to any grocery store in the area, and you have around a dozen different plant-based milk options.
Right.
And it's usually in the same aisle or around the same area where the other foods are. They usually put it in the health food section, or now they started putting it together with the dairy products.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a lot of great, if somebody wants to dive in, there's tons of resources online. There's all kinds of challenges. There's that Challenge 22 that's been popular. That Veganuary challenge is popular. There's hundreds of people, hundreds of thousands of people joining that. I'm pretty sure some of these popular documentaries have quick little challenges or, meal prep ideas. If you go to their websites, like the Game Changers. But my favorite one is Forks Over Knives.
Okay.
It's one website. Usually I tell people it's one website and it's got everything you need to get started.
Right.
They have the cooking video, they have the recipes, they have the smartphone app, they have the meal prep, they have books, they have magazines, they have an amazing online support group on Facebook. Just type in not plant-based nutrition, Forks Over Knives official support group. There's over 1 million people there.
Wow.
You go and put in one simple question and you'll get like hundreds of answers from people who are there eager to help you.
Okay. Yeah. And I found if you have any concerns, any reason that you might think this is not going to work for you, like usually a quick search on Google or on Forks Over Knives or any vegan community, people are more than happy to help you out with that. Right?
Yeah. And there's also people who have been professionals who have been doing this for a long time. That's another mistake people make. They find veganism through YouTubers or bloggers, and then they go on not sound and not scientific advice, and they just follow, the persona. They don't follow the actual plant-based diet that's, supported by doctors and health professionals. They go by what some of these YouTubers and bloggers do, which most of the times doesn't match with real life and science.
Right. All right. Well, thank you so much again for joining us.
No
is there anything you'd like to say to close off the show here?
No,
That's great.
that's about it. Thank you
Okay.
for having me.
Thank you.
All right.
So we have a couple of announcements here for events coming up. This Tuesday, the 25th, at the Civic Hub in Kitchener, which is in part of the St. John's Anglican Church. We have a film screening of Hope, What You Eat Matters. There is a free meal being provided there as well, plant-based meal, of course. So if anyone is available to come out, you're welcome to. It's Tuesday the 25th at 6 p.m. at the Civic Hub in Kitchener. Anonymous for the Voiceless is an animal rights group, and they have an event coming up this Saturday. Actually, that would be tomorrow at 11:30 outside of Lazarus Hall in by Wilfrid Laurier University. You can find more information about that on the AV Kitchener Facebook page. So if you look up AV Kitchener on Facebook, there's some information there, and we would be glad to have more people out to educate the public about animal rights and about vegan diets. We're expecting some good crowds there. If you're interested at all in animal rights things, events happening, there are also vigils with KW Animal Save and Guelph Cow Save. These vigils have a profound effect on a lot of people who are interested in veganism, or who even have been in it for a long time but never really put themselves in the place of animals going to slaughter. So there are monthly vigils for KW Animal Save and Guelph Cow Save, and you can find more information on those on the Facebook pages. If you look them up, feel free to reach out to the organizers there. They would be happy to hear from anyone who's interested in that. That is everything. Thank you so much for joining us at Liberation Hour Radio. Next week, we'll be back Friday at 8 o'clock with Neil LeChapelle from Extinction Rebellion. So we're looking forward to hearing what he has to say. Thank you so much.
Gotta let you know that I'm vegan.